Hey, and it's the 19th. Wow. So, whether you are in North America, Europe, London, New Zealand, Africa, Caribbean, South Caribbean, North Caribbean, South America, North America, welcome to a different world. Welcome to this time of reflection as we look at the ways and means of continuing to work out our COVID situation. It is really exciting, and I have really enjoyed the time with you over the last, well, I see 13 sessions. Uh, this started just maybe to be 2 weeks or three, but here it is. That will make it to the seventh week, and I am very delighted to continue to share. COVID 19 is not on its way out, but it's not as impacting as it has been, let's say, in February, March. And so governments and nations have been going through phases of re identifying and reintegration within society and within national perspectives. But yet, the question is, has the psyche been there, or going there, or ready to go there? Or are we still wondering and deciding if we would want to have what is considered now the new normal? And I've been looking at the context of socialization and how in the past we didn't really decide how we would live or how we would be socialized. We, as it were, went with the flow. And that was fine for us. You know, babies, we were, toddlers, we became, then young children, a child. And so we went with the flow. Where mommy went, where daddy went, what they did, what they didn't do. That was all part of the flow. And so now that we are adults, or we are in that stage where we are really making home a reality, what do we do? How do we perceive the next level, the next thing we're doing, what's happening with us? And so it's quite important for us to identify how are we going to fit in to the next level. I'm here in a very natural environment. I share some piece laptop and talking to you. I'm hearing birds and trees, and I consider the flow. I could also be structural in terms of getting maybe backdrop and getting some aesthetic, some plants, and getting a place so that you can see a scenario, and that's fine. But the issue is the information, the reality of one's environment is so important for how we go to the next level. So here we are, all of a sudden cannot go with the flow, even though, as I said, we were going with one before. All of a sudden we cannot do, but yet we have learned to do. And there's certain things that we will always do because that's what our nature gives. Now, we have talked a little bit about making meaning and taking action in terms of re- establishing the possibilities of our future. And when we talked about that, we talked about getting back into the place where we can hopefully, or rather, go forward with a pre-planned or unplanned maybe, but nevertheless, it becomes a plan or becomes an action that we will involve ourselves with, and then we go forward. So therefore, what is that plan of action that we're going to take today, and how are we going to make this thing real and viable for our future? One of the things that is important for us to note that whatever we do, wherever we go, it's all about the transition and the change. Last week, or last session, sorry, we talked about that transition coming out of 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and then going into another 8 weeks. Because every 2 weeks for our country here, there's going to be a new phase. And so we are coming to the end of another phase. So by the end of this week, we could have new things again happening. So that when we plant a seed in the ground and when it grows, and then it shoots up out of the ground, we call that seedling. We look for development, and every week, every 2 weeks, we see changes, and we look for buds. We look for young fruit coming out, and we look to see how the leaves are, and we are content to wait until there is a fulfilled fruit. No, not by English, or I could say a ripe fruit, or a ready to pick fruit. And we are content to work with nature. Content. Some of us, we are hurry and we pick it first ripe. And of course, there's a gripe, belly gripe, or there's some kind of heartburn, or it doesn't agree because it is not really edible at that time. And we call that in our country force ripe. And so that we have to see that in terms of our transition back to the reality of our human development, if I may say that way, or the reality of what has been the plan for our year 2020, getting back into the groove to make those realities true. How do we see ourselves growing in that time? So I am presenting a seed context. I'm presenting just as God did. He had a seed context. And in the beginning, and I like to use that story, if you may, it's a story that I have read about in what is called the Christian Bible, and we have read that very nicely. And in chapters 1, it is that there is the darkness, and there is the reestablishing of the earth, and there is the continual of day 1 and day 2 and day 3 and day 4. And every day there is a new manifestation. Every day there's a revelation. Every day something is happening. And, in that time, I recognized, of course, there were no humans. So there was nobody to harass God about whether it was too slow, it was time, where was this, why I shut that down, what it is, But today, when we have humankind very much available in our environment and very much present, everybody's idea is right. Everybody wants their idea to be heard and to be seen. And so therefore we have this clamor of contention and clamor of anxiety. No, we should go up to work. No, but we have money. Oh, so that you have transport and you have food and groceries and you have the bars and the people who are selling and the people, it's a cacophony of sounds, so to speak. But in effect, we still have to work 24 hours by 24 hours. So that I am suggesting, secondly, not just to look at it as a seed, but to recognize that there is going to be a growth period in terms of from this planting the seed to the seedling, shooting up from the ground, the radicle going down, the radicle coming up, sorry, the plumule going down, and it's all nice and green, and we taking our time to make sure that we are going to get fruit from this tree. And very symbolically, we have to nurture it. We have to take our time in making sure that all the protocols that are given, all the things that we can work for the success of this fruit and to come into its fullness in the months to come. There are some plants that people get fruit after 6 weeks. There are some vegetables there. There are some plants that take 5 years before they bring forth fruit. There are plants that will take a year. So we are not too sure what kind of seed this is in terms of a plant but we know we all want it quick. We all want it now. We wish there was no transitioning back to normal. Get out there. No. In any context, wherever there's going to be something new, there's a birthing, there's a gestation period, and we go through. So we are all working through this gestation period, so to speak, still in a dark place, but yet it is like a fruit-bearing situation. So whether you seem to think that you're still in the woods, you're still suppressed into your darkness of your house, it is still going to be a seedling context. Whether you're still free to go out, it is still the sealing context. Why? Because we are still within the boundaries and the protocols of our governments. And so therefore, we have to therefore agree and to settle back down in our chairs and be comfortable as we take one step at a time. So let's see if this can help us alleviate the pressures of what? Anxiety, the pressures of the selfishness that comes to us in terms of we still wanting to achieve what we had planned, and recognize there must be some redivesting, there must be some recalibrating here. We must look at the plans we would have had in January or even last year and recognize that we cannot do what we wanted to do the same way we could have done it now. There is going to be change. And therefore, how do I reckon with anxiety? How do I reckon with a passion of seeming failure as against success? Well, I can work that out. Therefore, I have to recognize that I didn't plan COVID-19 and I didn't plan all these protocols. It came to me and I've learned to work that out. So therefore, I can now learn the reverse in terms of getting back to a prescribed normal or prescribed function. Therefore, in that time, I have to learn to work the sunlight. I have to work to the rain. I have to get to work out. Somebody's going to come and pull out the weed and that grass that is going to maybe stifle me. So there are going to be some implications and there's going to be some interventions around us that may seem to choke us. But alas, we are not to fear. We are not to be afraid of how we are going to exist or succeed with all these things. Let's say, for instance, in our natural conditions here within the Caribbean, we are now facing the hurricane season. There's already the talk about an Arthur. Yes. So therefore, with the COVID-19 context of that shutdown, and yet with the limitations we are facing sometime, anytime, a deluge of rain and much clamor that is going to maybe cause some flooding and some disaster somewhere in the Caribbean. So there's going to be a double jeopardy. There's going to be more trauma. How do we live out this trauma? Again, we're not planning the trauma, it's coming to us. So that we are still in the process of working that out. Some of us are still in the building and establishing. So that again, how do we work out the circumstances that are natural around us? Let me go back to the sun. Too much sun may scorch some plants, or too much water may kill it. So therefore, again, we have to learn how to take what's around us and work it for good. We are not going to say no rain, no sun, but we have got to learn that all that is part of the processing that brings us into the next day. We have got to learn that how there's going to be times of where we have to prune, where we have to weed and get rid of those things that can choke us. So that you recognize there's always intervention. There's always that kind of process when somebody has to be involved in our process to make it happen. Therefore, individuality really is out of the window. We cannot just be by ourselves, with ourselves. So therefore, again, that brings another dynamic that we have to learn now to engage with public or engage with people on the whole to see how best we can go forward. Now, that in itself, coming from me, is like, wow, what are you saying? We are still told to keep the protocols of 6 feet apart. We are still told how not to hug. You may need not hug, but there is still need for us to connect. And that's why I think going out to work and doing some things at least 3 or twice a week is effective in terms of giving us some stimulation, environmental stimulation, social stimulation, bring us to a place where we can carry our thoughts out, share it, and be impacted by different opinions that will then help us to make proper decisions. So that in how we are going forward, let's not get started again or get uptight about what we are hearing that we cannot do. Let's see what we can do. What we can do is work the process as if it is a seedling growing. making sure that it's not being prematurely uprooted or prematurely damaged or prematurely crushed because of our behavior. We are still to maintain that leverage of working to see how best we can accomplish the future. Let me step back a bit here. I mentioned the word anxiety just now, but let me step back and recognize here that we are still dealing with attitudes and behaviors. And now the anxiety is about how we reach in the end. So some of us already see up September, October, and going, wow, gosh, what's going to happen? Hello, it is still day by day. So that with all your anxiety, you cannot make decisions yet for October or September. You still have to work out the May. You still have to work out the June. It's coming. It's 1 month at a time, or it's 1 week at a time. It's one day at a time. So I'm suggesting that we take a deep breath and we say, oh, today is the 19th of May. And I work that out and wait for the 20th to come. So I'll have to go to bed, as some of us do, go to bed and then get up to the 20th of May. So that is there a space there where I can refresh myself in terms of getting my cells refreshed, my neurons, my neurotransmitters, so that I relax my muscles, I have sweet sleep, I'm able to overcome any fatigue, any exhaustion, my blood pressures are fine, my adrenaline is doing well, so that there is that comfort and joy I can face the 20th. Wow. That's nice, yes? I can face the what? 20th. So therefore, I get up on the 20th, that's tomorrow, and I do what I have. There's a disappointment coming. No. It's just a difference in the routine. I am not seeing disappointment. I'm seeing differences that brings another opportunity of how to handle my day. I have been faced with technical issues, and I have had to learn how to work those technical issues. Otherwise, I may have pulled every little gray hair out, or I would have been displaying an anxiety which is so contradictory to who I am and what I believe. So I had to learn to say, okay, if you break down, fine. There's no recording, there's no classes. Just wait for the next day. You wait for the next day. It works. The next day, fine. It doesn't work the third day. It works half day the fourth day. But I am not trying to make it happen with a shoulda, woulda, coulda. But there is a need for me to address the issue of why. So I look at the issue that says, okay, there is a breakdown in the system. Could I address it? Yes. So I put things in place, to address the system. Very logically, very rationally. There is no anxiety. I am doing very well. And so that the changes go on and there's growth at the same time. There's also behavior, there's also environmental awareness, and things are being done. Isn't that nice? Don't you like that? So I want to let you see that even though we're talking about Wednesday, the 20th of May, there's also going to be the 20th of August. How do I reach this? How I reach down there? Because you see, the process is going to be the same as it is for tomorrow. It's going to be the same going all the way down there. So I am not sharing something that is just going to be a medication for tonight, for tomorrow. No, it's a medication for every day. It's going to be workable every day in letting me see how I can address the comfort of my day by allowing myself to agree that what is has a reason. How can I attend to that? If there needs to be an adjustment, a replacement, some kind of recalibrate, I do that with joy. I go forward. But if I were to try the ifs, but coulda, woulda, fine. In context, if I am planting my tree again, I cannot woulda, shoulda, the tree growing. Some people looking for fruit very quickly. It didn't bear yet. How long does this take to bear? It will bear. But the yet is going to come. But it has a process. And it's getting what it needs. A little rain, a little sun, the nutrition, your little molding. For some people, they pass this speak to the plant. It is alive. And so, therefore, we have to look and see how we can keep alive by the little bit of sun and rain, the little things that happen. And don't forget, rain for some of us is negative. So, if a little negative comes and get wet, something soaked out, that's okay. All that is part in the process of making the reality of my plant real. So, how are we going there? We're doing well, aren't we? We are beginning to really understand how to, one, learn to work for our future and see how best we can transition into what is going to be life within now. And we also see how we can work on our anxieties and our negative emotions that are principally going to harass us in terms of how they're bringing out that anxiety to make sure things happen in a particular way. And we are going to be, no, 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 no. Things are going to happen as they are ready, fulfilled, be fulfilled, and they are going to happen because I am working to make sure that they are constantly what? Cared for. They're constantly shaped, they're constantly watered, and they're constantly encouraged. So, look to your left, look to your right. Look at your spouse, your child, look through the door, look through the window, see a neighbor, and say to yourself, hey, how can I help them work out their own anxieties? Because everybody, there's something going on in every house. Would you believe that? And as we go along, things are still happening. People are still being born, people are still dying, people are still sick, people are still buying, shopping. Every aspect of life continues. So that whether you're shut down or not, there is the what we call the human development, or to use a better word, the life perspective theory or the life course perspective is still in train. People are moving on every day. Birthdays are coming. Birthdays are coming. People are being born. So therefore, there is life. So let's not forget that. So I trust we can work out that anxiety. We can work out that anxiousness in terms of when things are going to happen, and know it will. Remember the plant, it's growing. Care for it. Care for yourself. Remember the future plans that you had in 2019, early 2020. The actual objectives may not be may be the same, but the actual description, the function may change a little, and that's okay. Keep your focus. Keep forward. You are going to inherit the fruit of your tree. So may your seedling grow. May you nurture it well. And may you find that joy and continue to see it grow as you expand and wait with anticipation that you are going to be a successful citizen of your nation. So I bid you adieu. It's good to have you here again. And I know we shall meet again on Friday evening at 6 o'clock for another episode of A Different World. Yes. Oh, did I say different? Yes, different world. It's not going to be the same. Why? Because the 19th is different to the 20th, is different to the 21st, different to the 22nd. And so each day there's going to be a new revelation of who you are for your nation. So God bless, and you have a very good night.